I don't know where the hay is, but they're about to roll in it. This courtship is going well. They're both bobbing heads, and she's a consenting adult. This is the perfect time of year to examine the birds and the bees. Well, birds. Most birds are shy in the bedroom, but ducks, well, they're exhibitionists. They'll court right out in the open, and more. Ducks start early, and maybe mallards start the earliest. How early? Well, right after nesting begins, molting starts, and for the next 3 to 4 weeks, the mallards are losing their feathers and can't fly. Most importantly, the males lose that green, so they don't show up for predators quite so much. For a small period of time, they're better camouflaged. But just as soon as fall arrives, they molt again, and they get that green head back, so they can woo the females all winter. Another courtship display, lowering their heads until their bills are almost in the water. If he does it, it's courtship. If she does it, they're ready, willing, and able. By the way, only female mallards quack. Males make a few grunting noises, but it's the females that do all the quacking. Oh, come on, rent a room. Other ducks do the head bobbing thing. These buffleheads have been doing it since January. They also do the lowering of the head thing, which really turns the ladies on. Buffleheads are kind of funny. They nest in fresh water up in northern Canada. In Maine, they spend the winter on salt water. But the moment anything starts to open up inland, they immediately go to Maine's inland freshwater before going north. And before that ever happens, they're already paired up. Their pair bonds go multiple years. They can mate for life, which means most of the scores have already been settled. They don't have to argue quite as much. Still, they will chase each other off and bump chests just to protect their own females. One other funny thing about buffleheads is they nest up north in Canada, but they depend on the holes of northern flickers. That's really the only thing they nest in. So up north, if there are no flickers, there are no buffleheads. In summer, Harlequin ducks nest all across Canada and into Alaska. And the thing they're looking for most is wild whitewater rivers. Of course, when it's frozen up north in winter, they come down and find wild surf along the coast of Maine and other places. You see, Harlequin ducks have a superpower. They heal very fast, and they need it because they will go into rough water where no other bird will go, and they get beat up. Harlequin ducks have more broken bones than any other species. Harlequin ducks mate for life, or at least for multiple years. They're long-term pair bonds. Mated pairs will keep that pair bond going all winter with romantic displays, head bobs, rushing at each other. Unmated males will try to hook up constantly. They even form small groups, and they pursue unmated females relentlessly all winter. Wherever she goes, they go. Sooner or later, one of them gets her attention. You see? More broken bones than any other species. I wonder what happens when one of them says, "Geez, not tonight, I have a headache." Head bobbing is another common courtship display. But if you get around a female common goldeneye, somewhere there's a male goldeneye doing the head throwback thing. That'll be mixed with what's called a bowsprit, where he lowers his head a bit and charges forward, sometimes head pumping, and head pumping, and more head pumping. Oh, I don't know how she can resist that. Common Goldeneyes have over a dozen mating displays, but he sure likes this one. All this display stuff is important for common Goldeneyes because in winter they can get some pretty big flocks and there's a lot of intense competition. And they don't really permanently make any bonds until end of April. Common Goldeneyes are monogamous, at least until nesting season begins. Then all bets are off. That means every year, about this time, they have to start it all over again. By April, they've mostly got it figured out. In fact, it looks like these two pairs have sorted things out. He dives when she does, he dives when she does. Considering they're really not all that faithful, both males will keep an eye on their females. Red-breasted mergansers throw their heads back too. Red-breasted mergansers can get really active. They almost have to be. They summer further north than other mergansers. They winter further south. I have seen them in the Florida Everglades. So the courtship among red-breasted mergansers is pretty intense if they're going to outcompete their rivals. Red-breasted mergansers are northern breeders, but they have recently been found nesting in Maine, and I've seen them before just over the border into Canada, so they've always been close. Now apparently they're here, and obviously winter here. I don't know what these common mergansers are doing. They're obviously paired up. Then they start swimming, and both males take an interest in one of the females. While the other female says, "Hey, I'm still interested." Then the males get a little testy with each other. And then both females get into it. All mergansers can use fresh and salt water. Common mergansers prefer fresh. Red-breasted mergansers prefer salty. Hooded, mostly fresh, but I find them both places. Pumping chests is a common way for mergansers to settle their disputes since they don't really hurt each other. Meanwhile, there's another pair over there that's just watching the whole thing. Common mergansers aren't very traditional anyway. Dad leaves as soon as the eggs are laid. Mom sometimes lays her eggs in the nests of other birds, sometimes not even her own species. And finally, the two pairs get back together like nothing ever happened. I haven't seen this kind of behavior since frat parties in college. These two hooded mergansers have figured it out. They're the only two mergansers in this pond. That's really too bad because I kind of would have liked to have seen that courtship display. Hooded mergansers are, on an evolutionary scale, halfway between the other mergansers and common goldeneyes. In fact, they've even been known to interbreed. This picture I took in Acadia National Park a few years ago. It's a hooded merganser common goldeneye mix. Really, I'm not even sure they're in the same genus. Wait, did you just snap at him? Freeze frame. She just did it again. That does it. They're not just courting. They're already married. You might think these two wood ducks have paired up, but they're both males. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Really? In real life, they do? Well, he's getting cold feet. These two, they are definitely paired up. Green-winged teal, paired up. Long-tailed ducks are pretty weird. They're mostly social with themselves and others all winter. Not a lot of competition. They're actually in their mating colors all winter. And then they change to their dull brown colors just before going north so that they'll blend in with the vegetation once they start nesting. They're not terribly antagonistic with each other. They don't squabble much until they get on their territorial breeding grounds up in the northern lakes of Canada. Well, they squabble a little. A little charging each other just to stay in practice. Mostly they just wiggle that long tail. And wiggle that long tail some more. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Ringneck ducks are one of the first migrants to arrive. They come in here just as soon as the ice breaks up. They do many of the same courtship displays as the other ducks, but in bigger groups. This has got to get complicated. There is one female in this group. Who's the dominant male, and how is he going to ward off all these potential rivals? Here it comes again. She doesn't even seem interested, surrounded by all these males, and all she's doing is feeding. Another squabble. And then the two males swim right next to each other to catch up to the others who are surrounding the female. They all look alike. I can't tell if it's the same suitors or they're all rivals or who's ahead. Then she pops up right next to the duck that was just chased, and he chases off the one farthest away. And nothing ends a squabble faster than ducking underwater. Boy, you're on your own trying to figure this one out. This isn't a marsh, it's a soap opera. Well, that's it. I think I have all my ducks in a row.